Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanic. And if you enjoy this fanic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanic like this. And now let's start the fanic.
Ankitamoria 572004 at gmail.com. No subject. Ankitamoria 572004 at gmail.com, Wednesday, January 21st, 2026 at 3:25 a.m. 2. Pradeepyadav227411 at gmail.com. Pradeepyadav227411 at gmail.com. Forest of Death hash. And Chan is sorry Naru-kun. Anko says over and over, shaking Naruto side to side with Tenten on the other side. Yeah, Naruto. She's sorry. Plus I had nothing to do with this, Tenten says. Naruto leans on the raised podium with arms folded and his cheeks puffed up. Near them was also a large tent. The others are coming, Naruto says, pushing off the podium but looks back with his tongue out. Anko composes herself quickly as the other genin arrive and Naruto makes his way to his team, while Tenten does the same but the blonde could feel lustful gazes on him. Are you alright Naruto-kun? Hinata asks and Naruto waves his hand. Anko unleashes her ki to garner their attention. Alright, listen up. Behind me is Training Ground 44 or the Forest of Death, and for the next 5 days you're home away from home. It has 44 locked gates. A river and forest inside. This second round is about survival, she declares. Survive, Ino shouts. Anko grins wide and holds up 2 scrolls with one marked heaven and the other earth. That's right, Blondie. The goal is to survive and reach the center tower with both these scrolls, she explains. So we have to survive and get both scrolls. Is killing allowed? Bunten says, grinning. Anko looks over the Kiri Kunoichi. Exactly. Do whatever it takes to have both scrolls. Every team is your enemy, she states. What about food? Choji says and Shikamaru sighs, muttering. Plenty of animals inside or just starve. Treat this like a real mission, Anko says and holds up a stack of papers. This waiver will absolve your respective villages in case of death. Take one. Pass it around and sign it. Then turn them in and receive the scroll for your team, Anko adds. Each of the genin sign their waiver and one member of the respective teams gets the scroll, with Hinata getting their heaven scroll. Each team move to their respective gate and TEAM7 gets the 12th gate. You two better not hold me back, Sasuke says and Naruto ignores him. He moves Zetsue to his lower back and adjusts his gloves. 2 minor objectives. Find out why Kabuto smells like snakes and scout Gaara, Naruto thought. The proctor opens the lock-on gate and checks her watch. I gotta say. Anko didn't do you justice, she says and Naruto scoffs. She better be ready for the prank that comes, Naruto says and a chill goes up Anko's spine. The timer blares and the gates open as all the teams rush inside, thus beginning the second round of the Chunin exams. Hash. Anko kicks her legs lazily with a dango stick in her mouth and screams filling her ears. The fun has finally begun, she thought but sighs. I bet Naruto is upset with me for showing those photos but I wanted those little girls to see that he is my man, Anko thought, spitting her stick at a lizard and through its head. Oi Mitarashi, come check this out, a proctor shouts. Anko scoffs and hops down with a tisk. What? Some kid ran back to the fence. Katetsu, she says. Katetsu has long, spiky, black hair and dark eyes. A strip of bandage running across the bridge of his nose and a light color marking on his chin and gray uniform. No, we found 3 bodies, Katetsu says but Anko scoffs. So what, people die in the forest all the time? Anko says but Katetsu shakes his head. No, these bodies are outside the gate and all of them are strange. Just come and look, Katetsu says and Anko scratches her ear and her ear ring twinkles. Find, lead the way, Anko says and follows Katetsu to the aforementioned gate. 2 other proctors were looking over the bodies as all of them were face down. Anko arrives with Katetsu. So who are they, she says. The Kusa team but their faces are missing, one says, named Azumo and Anko's breath hitches. Azumo has brown hair, and dark eyes with his hair combed down and his right eye, dressed in the gray uniform. The proctor named Mozoku has dark-colored hair that is concealed by his hitai which he wears like a bandana with glasses and gray uniform. That's his fucking style. Why is he here? Anko thought. Alert the Hokage right now. Orochimaru has infiltrated the exams. Also get an Anbu squad. Anko shouts and rushes towards the fence and leaps over, before the others could protest. That bastard. Could he be after Naruto? Anko thought, leaping from tree to tree. Music. Orochimaru theme extended Naruto Ost. Team 7 currently find themselves in a small clearing after dealing with a shape-shifting team from AIM. We'll need a password or phrase to make sure we are who we are, Sasuke suggests, but Naruto points to Hinata. My Byakugan can ascertain the truth, Hinata says. Naruto looks around but suddenly the wind picks up violently, tearing through the area and sends him flying, or so they thought. Hinata and Sasuke are thrown into several bushes as the latter draws a kunai. What the hell was that? Sasuke thought, as they emerge from the bushes and sees a large runt torn into the ground. Naruto-kun, Hinata shouts, with a few cuts in her clothes but ominous chuckling echoes around them. Foo, I would worry about yourselves. Rather than that boy, a dark feminine voice says. A tall figure emerges from the shadows of the trees with long smooth hair and black eyes. She wears a tan top with a greenish outfit underneath, a thick purple rope belt tied in a large knot behind her back. The kunoichi pulls an earth scroll from her pack with a giggle. You want this to match yours, she says, before swallowing it down. Call me Shior. Before very long, one of us will have both scrolls and the other will be dead, Shior sneers, unleashing her ki. Hinata and Sasuke gasps as their deaths played before their very eyes, causing both to drop their knees and Hinata to vomit. Foo. So much for the mighty Uchiha, Shior sneers. Sasuke struggles to his feet as his Sharingan activates and gains another Tomo. I won't be looked down on, he thought. Ah, he's overcome the fear through sheer will, Shior thought. Sasuke throws himself forward with a thrust of kunai and shuriken, but Shior dodges back and breaks left. Hinata struggles to her feet but her legs were wobbly. I'm no good like this, she thought. Hinata gasps as Shior drives her foot into her gut, knocking the wind out of her and slamming her into a tree. Naruto-kun, Hinata thought, losing consciousness. Sasuke rejoins the fray with several kicks but Shior blocks and counters with her own. Your Uchiha blood has arisen. Show me more, Shior says. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, Sasuke shouts, firing a large flame. Shior dodges the flames but Sasuke closes in with a barrage of kicks and punches and Shior dodges. However, gains the upper hand and sends Sasuke into a tree with a crack, but the Uchiha Saiyan substitutes with a log and pulls some ninja wire, ensnaring Shior to another tree. Kaden. Ruka no Jutsu, Sasuke shouts, engulfing the enemy kunoichi and blowing a hole through the tree. Music ends. Sasuke pants heavily to rein in his breath, but ominous chuckling comes from Shior's body as she frees herself, but the feminine tone shifts to a male tone. Impressive, Sasuke-kun. Such control over your Sharingan. You will do so nicely, Shior says, but part of her face is ripped away. The ripped portion reveals pale white skin and a snake-like eye with purple markings. Your eyes are so much keener than Itachi's, Shior says. Who are you? Sasuke shouts, trying to move but cannot. I am Orochimaru, but that's all you get until we meet again, Orochimaru says and suddenly extends his neck to bite Sasuke on the collarbone. Sasuke screams as Orochimaru pulls back and a 3-tomo mark forms as the Uchiha heir struggles to stay standing but collapses. Seek me out if wish to have true power, Orochimaru says, starting to sink into the ground but stops and starts to laugh. Kukuku. I was wondering when you would show. Not very nice to let your teammates get so hurt. Naruto-kun, Orochimaru says, looking to a higher branch. It's not something I want my teammates to see, Naruto says, landing in front of the unconscious Sasuke. Orochimaru chuckles with a grin. As much I would like to test the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I've already gone. Setting my sights on someone else. My dear Sweeten. He starts but Naruto's boot slams him into the tree. However, Orochimaru melts into mud, causing Naruto to kick the tree and it shatters. Damn it, he's here then, Anko. Naruto thought, and creates two clones. Take Sasuke and Hinata somewhere safe. One of you dispel to let me know, he says, and both nod as Naruto vanishes. Hashtag moments earlier hash. Anko races through the forest in search of her bastard sensei, Naruto. I know you'll be mad me, but I have to do this, she thought. Anko drops down as she sees a figure in the distance and her eyes narrow in rage. Foo. Anko, my dear. It's been too long, Orochimaru says. Anko pulls Forsenbon from her sleeve. Cut the shit. You're an S-class missing nin and need to be taken down. Who better to do it than your former student? She shouts, flinging the Senbon. Not quite, Orochimaru says, spewing his tongue. Anko dodges up the tree into a crouch but dodges again as the tongue follows her but snatches her right arm, dragging her to the ground, but she corrects. Sanae Jashu, Anko shouts, spewing snakes from her sleeve. The snakes slam the Sannin into the tree and yanks Orochimaru out and slamming him into the tree behind her. Now you die, Anko shouts, rushing him, but her body seizes and the Orochimaru before melts into mud. Anko clutches her curse mark as it pulses wildly. No, she thought. Cuckoo. Almost Anko dear, such a shame. Orochimaru sneers and raises a half-ram sign. Anko screams loudly as her curse mark starts to spread. What have you done? She screams. I've decided to get rid of you, dear. Your curse mark will spread and it will kill you. I can only imagine the look on Naruto-kun's face, Orochimaru states. Anko collapses with a heated glare on her face as her marking spreads to her face. Don't you touch him, she shouts, tears in her eyes. So, he did heal your broken heart and soul. Cuckoo, Orochimaru says, but his breath hitches. Music. Cometh the hour, Part A, Bleach Ost. Naruto lands with a thud behind them, but his breath is distorted. Stay away from her, he hisses, stepping out the shadows. Orochimaru's eyes narrow as Naruto's form comes into view with his hollowification on full display. As the Kyuubi doing this, Orochimaru thought. Interesting, Naruto-kun. I wonder if the Kyuubi is responsible for this, Orochimaru says and lowers his stance, but his eyes widen. Naruto grabs Orochimaru's face and blitzes them through several trees, as Anko's curse mark stops. Naruto, Anko thought. Naruto reaches a clearing and drives Orochimaru into the ground, before leaping and driving his boot into the Sannin's chest. This indeed is an interesting transformation, Orochimaru says, as the one under Naruto's boot melts. Believe what you want, Orochimaru, Naruto says and reaches for Zetsue. Orochimaru quickly closes the gap between them, but his body was sliced in half, shocking the Sannin. Orochimaru opens his mouth wide as another body emerges, but Naruto gives him no quarter. Byakurai, Naruto utters, blowing open Orochimaru's shoulder. The Sannin hisses in pain and shunshions to a branch. This boy can be very dangerous. If this is the Kyuubi, I'll just shut it out, he thought, his fingers glow. Orochimaru launches forward with his real speed and jams his fingers into Naruto's stomach. Gogyo Fuin, he hisses. Naruto's body seizes and his transformation seizes, but Naruto fades away, shocking Orochimaru. Yutsusemi, Naruto hisses, behind the Sannin with Zetsue raised and cutting through Orochimaru's right shoulder down. Orochimaru once again his mouth wide, but a large white snake erupts out with his face. Curse you, boy, he hisses. So that's your true form, Naruto says, but his eyes narrow. Shame I can't kill just yet. You and I both know Anbu are approaching, he adds. Orochimaru narrows his eyes with a hiss. You will regret this, boy, but at least I can take Anko away from you, he says, bursting into hundreds of snakes. He's right. I can sense her fading, Kurama says, and Naruto swipes his face, releasing his hollow mask. Music. Restriction and Pledge. Hunter x Hunter Ost. Naruto quickly races back to Anko and finds her laying nearly motionless, her breathing labored and sweating profusely. Anko, wake up! Naruto shouts, rubbing her cheek. Anko barely opens her eyes but manages a weak but sad smile. Sorry Naruto-kun. The bastard got me, she whispers. Naruto clenches his fist but glances Zetsue and grimaces. You jinxed yourself, she says and Naruto looks down. And Chan, I can save you but you have to do something, Naruto says and Anko winces in pain. Whatever it takes. I don't want to die. Before we. Anko whispers and coughs violently. Naruto clenches Zetsue and brings it closer to her chest. You'll have drive Zetsue into your chest and it'll make you like a me, he states and raises a ram sign, creating a barrier. Anko slowly reaches for the blade and they drive it into her chest, causing a bright blue glow to illuminate the forest. The light slowly dies down and Naruto pants heavily as Anko lays motionless but her curse mark was gone, leaving some burned skin where it originated. Next to Anko was a wakizashi with a coiled snake guard and purple and silver hilt. How much did she get? Naruto thought and Zetsue manifests. About 40% but it seems to be a success. Perhaps being exposed to your Ryutsu facilitated the change, Zetsue states. Naruto removes his left glove and bites his thumb. Raise her shirt. I need to put the pseudo-gente rain, he says and Zetsue lifts Anko's shirt. Fuinjutsu is quite the art. If you were able to recreate the gente rain, Zetsue says. Naruto places his thumb on Anko's stomach and starts to draw an Old English 6 and channels his Ryutsu, causing it to glow and adhere to her skin before vanishing. There now she won't leak her Ryutsu unknowingly, Naruto says and rises to his feet. Anbu are close by. They'll take care of her, he adds, picking up her sword and seals it into his left hand. You should get back to Hinata and Sasuke, Zetsue says and dispels. Naruto gives Anko one last long look and leaps off, revealing her location to the Anbu. Neko quickly appears in a crouch. Over here it's Anko, she shouts, picking her up. Music ends. Hash hash. Naruto stares out the opening of the abandoned tree that his clones found for Sasuke and Hinata. Hinata woke up during the interim and nearly popped his clone but Sasuke was sweating profusely. Naruto looks away from the opening to the other occupant in the tree, her red eyes filled with worry. You can rest Karen. I'll keep watch, Naruto says. Karen adjusts her glasses with a weak nod. Teams may try to attack during the night. I should be your guard. I can sense them, she says but Naruto waves his hand. Don't worry, Naruto muses. To think a member of your clan was still alive, Kurama comments. Naruto rests Zetsue on his shoulder. Good thing I killed that bear but this may present a problem. Karen is a pure Uzumaki. Those bastards will hound her, he thought. Then have the Senju take her into her custody until you reach clan head status, Kurama says and Naruto sighs but nods. Nightfall drags on but no teams try their luck but not for a lack of trying, due to Naruto keeping his barrier up while asleep. The morning soon came and Naruto closes his eyes, dropping his barrier and listening for movement. Naruto-kun, Hinata whispers and Naruto glances back. Morning Hinata. Are you feeling any better? Naruto asks and Hinata slowly nods. Naruto quickly makes 2 clones to get them some fresh water, as he unseals some food from his scrolls. Has Sasuke woken up yet? Hinata says but Naruto shakes his head, taking an apple. His fever has started to go down but nothing indicates he'll wake up soon. We're at a disadvantage. Even if Karen helps us, Naruto says but his eyes narrow, feeling his clones dispel. Hinata stay in here and don't come out. We have company, Naruto says, getting to his feet. I can help you, Hinata says but Naruto give her an eye smile. Don't worry, I'll be back, Naruto says, stepping out of the hollowed out tree. Sitting on a rock was Zaku, while Kin and Dosu were in front of their teammate. Wake up Sasuke. We wish to fight him, Dosu says. Naruto drives Zetsue into the dirt and rests his right hand on the hilt. Sorry, Sasuke isn't here right now. Can I take a message? He says, taking a bite of his apple. Zaku hops down with a sneer on his face. Looks like you wanna die first, he shouts, raising his hands and reveals small holes in it. Take this, Zaku shouts, firing a concussive blast of air. Naruto breaks right as it tears a path, but Dosu meets him with his Kayome Supika aimed for the blonde, but he somersaults over his swing. Oof, that is an interesting weapon, Naruto shouts, landing and turning on his heel to close the gap between him and Kin. Zenkaha, Zaku shouts, aiming for Naruto but only hits Kin and slams her into a tree unconscious. Naruto lands on the rock Zaku was sitting on. No care for teammates, he says. Dosu narrows his eye. He's definitely strong. Somehow he's not affected by my Kayome Supika, he thought. Zaku, we'll take him together. Dosu starts, but a chill went through his body. Naruto leaps off the rock and it shatters, but Zaku raises his hands. Zenkakyokua, he roars, but this time engulfs Naruto in the blast. Ha 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 ha. He's not so tough, Zaku shouts, but Dosu's eye widens. Zaku, behind you, Dosu shouts. Zaku whips around, gasps as Naruto was behind him, his face scuffed with dirt and his hair blasted back. Oi, what did the 5 fingers say to face? Naruto says. What? Zaku says, but Naruto connects with a left hook to the jaw, laying out the Kaki Oto Shinobi. Slap, or rather punch in this instance, Naruto says and turns his attention to Dosu. Naruto cracks his knuckles. Your turn, he says, but stops and his eyes narrow. Music. Junkyusha, Naruto Ost. A dark and sinister chakra catches Dosu and Naruto's attention as Sasuke rises to his feet, purple chakra swirling around him. Hinata and Karen quickly get out Sasuke's path as he methodically emerges from the tree, with a flame-like pattern on the left side of his body. Dobi, fight me, Sasuke utters, his Sharingan active. Naruto fully turns to Sasuke with narrowed eyes. This isn't time, Tem. If haven't noticed, we're under attack, he says. Sasuke stares at this left and clenches it. I could care less about trash, he says. Oi mummy, take your teammates and leave the scroll, Naruto says, leaking his ki. Dosu tosses his earth scroll towards Naruto and collects his fallen teammates. Orochimaru-sama didn't mention the curse mark, he thought, leaping away. You'll fight me, Dobi, Sasuke starts but smirks. Or maybe I'll mess with that redhead girl, he adds. Naruto pulls some air in through his nose and exhales deeply but shakes his head. Not today, Tem, he says. Then I'll make you. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu, Sasuke roars, firing the shuriken-coated flames. Naruto dodges the flames and closes the gap between but smirks. Nighty-night, Tem, he says, and Sasuke jerks. Hinata quickly closes several of Sasuke's tenketsu points and the strange marks recedes and he collapses. Music ends. Hash hash. Sasuke-kun, a certain voice erupts. Sakura emerges from the bush line towards Sasuke. What did you do to him? She shrieks. We stopped him from nearly killing us. Since you were close, you saw everything, Naruto states. Kiba and Shino drop from the tree. What was that chakra? Kiba asks. You got me, Naruto says, picking up the scroll and retrieving Zetsue. Sakura continues to blubber over Sasuke, but he scrunches his face and opens his eyes. Sasuke-kun, she cries. Sakura, where am I? Sasuke says, but Naruto silently scoffs. Naruto-kun, should I open his tenketsu? Hinata says, following him to the tree. Karen comes out with a frightened look on her face. His chakra was so foul and cold, she says. Don't mind him, Naruto says, rubbing her head. Kiba and Shino follow Naruto. Do you have all your scrolls? Kiba asks. No, we lost our heaven scroll. We'll find another, Naruto says, lying perfectly. Oh, well, a bit of warning. Stay away from the Suna team. Kiba starts and shudders a bit. They are dangerous, he adds, and Shino nods. Thanks for the tip. Need some food? We've got extra, Naruto says, but Kiba shakes his head. Nah, we're leaving, Kiba says and turns on his heels. Sakura, let's go, he shouts. I'm not leaving, Sasuke-kun. Sakura screeches, but Sasuke touches her cheek and nods. Sakura quickly gets to her feet and follows her team, shocking the remaining Team 7 and Karen. He's got a hold on that howler monkey, Kurama says. Sasuke staggers to his feet and approaches Naruto. What happened to my power, he says. Hinata closed some of your tenketsu points to keep you from drawing on it. That power is nasty, Naruto says, but Sasuke grabs his shirt. I need power to kill him. Orochimaru has given me power and reminded me who I am. I am Avenger. I must have power at any cost. Even if being consumed by evil, Sasuke says. You're no Captain America, Zetsue comments, as Naruto grabs Sasuke's arm and applies some pressure. I could care less about your sole ambition. Right now we need to head to the tower and pass these exams, Naruto says. Sasuke winces and lets go but keeps up his glare. Fine then, but we need another heaven scroll, he says, but Naruto scoffs, pulling said scroll from his forearm. No we don't, Naruto says and glances to Hinata. Release his tenketsu and let's head to the tower, he adds, and Hinata nods. Hashtag Forest of Death Center Tower hash. Team 7+1 arrive at the tower about 3 hours later, stopping for breaks but not encountering any teams due to Naruto's clones and barrier. The group make their way through the hall and see a large sign. If qualities of heaven are what you desire, acquire wisdom to take your mind higher. However, if earthly qualities are what you lack, train your body to attack. If heaven and earth are open together, the perilous path will forever, Hinata reads. It could mean the scrolls, Naruto comments, pulling both from pockets and tosses one to Hinata. Sasuke folds his arms as Naruto and Hinata open the scrolls, but smoke erupts from them. It's a summoning jutsu, he says, and both toss the scrolls. Smoke erupts and reveals Shizune in a Jonin uniform, but her sleeves were longer. Congratulations on passing the second round of the Chunin exams, she states. How many other teams have passed? Hinata asks. So far 5 teams have passed, but the Suna team passed in 97 minutes. Breaking the previous record, but the shocking part was, one of them was completely uninjured, Shizune explains, and Naruto's eyes widen slightly. Putting that aside, the exams will end in another day. All teams not inside the tower will be disqualified. There are rooms on the several floors and a cafeteria, Shizune explains, pointing to the stairs. Can we return to the forest? Naruto asks, but Shizune shakes her head. No, all teams remain inside the tower until the round is finished, Shizune states, and Naruto slowly nods. Naruto-san, one moment, Shizune says, and Naruto glances back. Anko Mitarashi is currently in the hospital. She was found in the forest. I thought you should know, she adds, and Naruto nods. Thank you. Oh, can you take Karen to Tsunade-sama? She's family, Naruto says, and Shizune furrows her brow. I'm an Uzumaki, Karen says, and Shizune's eyes widen a slight fraction but nods. I'll take her and inform Sandaime-sama, Shizune says, and places a hand on Karen's shoulder, and they vanish into Leaf Shunshin. Why'd you tell about that, Proctor? Because of those photos, Sasuke says, but Naruto ignores him and continues for the steps. Naruto rounds a corner and creates a clone, before erasing his presence with his barrier. I'll be back shortly, Naruto says, and vanishes as the clone gives a thumbs up and follows his team to the 10th floor. Hash. Anko looks around in shock. Where am I? She whispers, seeing a sprawling mansion and garden. The last thing she remembers was fighting Orochimaru and him activating her curse mark. Then Naruto returning and saying he could save her, but at a cost. Anko rubs her forehead with a sigh but senses someone, causing her to whip around. Era. Very jumpy, a voice says. Out of the shadow emerges a petite girl with pale skin and large compound-looking snake-like eyes that do not possess pupils, only a haze of gradient, purple iris that becomes darker, the lower it goes. Who are you? Anko questions, but the girl giggles, moving one of her hands. Her hair is shoulder length that fades from black into dark purple blue. Well, my name is $% $. She says, and Anko furrow her brow, causing the girl to cover her mouth. Era. You can't hear my name yet, she says, revealing more of herself. She wears a kimono with a snake pattern, which fades into a sky blue then pink down the sleeves, which were cuffed with a black and white dotted trim. So who or what you? Anko questions, and the girl holds out a sword. The sword is a wakizashi with a coiled snake guard, its hilt silver and purple. I am a Zanpakuto spirit. Namely your Zanpakuto spirit, but you can't hear my name just yet, the girl says. Anko's eyes widen and start to flicker. Then Naruto, she starts, and the girl nods. He used his own power as the catalyst to awaken me, the girl says. Anko reaches for the sword but feels a pull, seems you awakening. Until next time, mistress, the girl says, waving. Anko slowly opens her eyes to the smell of medical cleaner and white ceiling. Anko. Thank Kami, Hana says, appearing in Anko's periphery. Tsunade approaches from the other side. You're very lucky and incredibly foolish to go after him alone, she says, sternly. Anko touches her left shoulder and feels burned skin. It's gone, she asks, and Hana nods. It isn't, it was doing you more harm than anything. However, now that is gone. Your chakra pool will grow, Tsunade says and rubs her nose. So what happened? Sensei wants to know, Tsunade adds. Anko slowly sits up with Hana's help and a pillow. The other proctors found 3 bodies outside the gates. All of their faces skinned off. It was his MO. I immediately asked them to alert the Sandame and an Anbu team. I did act irrationally, but he has tormented my life for years. I needed to face him, she explains. Did he say why he infiltrated the exams? Tsunade asks. Anko reaches her shoulder. He never said. Someone or something attacked him and I lost consciousness, she replies. Tsunade bites her nail with a small growl. Therein lies a problem. I'll inform Sensei. Maybe Jiraiya has something, she says and excuses herself. Hana rises from her seat and hugs Anko. I'm glad you're okay, she says. I may finally be free of him, Anko whispers, sniffling as Hana pulls away. Get some rest, all right, Hana says, and Anko slowly nods, as the former excuses herself. Anko sighs and notices her hair was untied but blinks, sensing a presence, and looks around. Your senses are awakening, Naruto says, appearing from thin air, and Anko gasps. Naruto closes the gap and pulls Anko into his chest. I'm glad you're okay, he whispers. I'm sorry for forcing you to save me and use your powers, Anko whispers. Naruto kisses the top of her head. You didn't, but it seems you met your Zanpakuto spirit, he says. I did, but I don't know her name yet, Anko says, as Naruto pulls back. Naruto ruffles his hair. That'll take time, but we can work on it, he says. I should get back. We passed the second round, Naruto says but smiles. One step, he says. Yeah, then we finally say it in public, Anko says and leans closer. I love you, both thought, sharing a loving kiss. #NayHQ#. Is that accurate? Danzo states. Across from him was Orochimaru in a sound Jonin uniform, Kukuku. Indeed, he says. Danzo grips his cane. He's more powerful than anyone realized, he says. He's close to Jonin in power or more. I was holding in back when we crossed path. His strange transformation has caught my interest. I don't believe it's the Kyuubi. Perhaps a undiscovered Kekkei Genkei, Orochimaru states. Neither of his parents showed such an ability, but nothing is known about Minato's heritage, Danzo says. Orochimaru folds his arms with a chuckle. It's a shame I can't acquire his body, but Sasuke-kun will do nicely, he says. Are the preparations complete? Danzo asks, and Orochimaru nods with a grin. Yes. I will be impersonating Rasa and get close to Sensei, but Tsunade will be an issue, Orochimaru says. Once the invasion commences, she will be occupied by the injured. I will keep my forces back, and once Hiruzen dies, I will make sure I am named Godime, not Tsunade, Danzo states. Kukuku. Then I wait to see it. Godime-sama, Orochimaru says, melting into mud. Danzo grips his cane and turns on his heels. Sai, he says, and Sai appears. Begin surveillance on the Jinchuriki once more. During the month break I will personally meet with the boy, he says, and Sai vanishes. I will have to use Shisui's eye to make him my servant, Danzo thought, returning to his residence. Hashtag Forest of Death Center Tower hash. Another day passes and all the Chunin hopefuls were standing in a large arena with balconies overlooking the floor and stone arms in a ram sign. Hiruzen stood with all the proctors and Jonin for the teams, but Anko was missing. Congratulations on passing the second round of the Chunin exams. However, too many teams have passed this round, he starts. Too many. Only 8 teams passed of 26, Tamari thought. Hiruzen clears his throat. Now with so many passing, we will have a preliminary round before final exam, but before that I will tell you the true purpose of the Chunin exams, he states. True purpose, Kiba says, and several murmur. Yes, the true purpose of these exams. Why do you believe we hold these exams with our allies and rival villages? Hiruzen starts, but no one answers. The simplest answer is to raise the skill level of our shinobi and promote friendship, but these exams are truly a representation of war between nations, he adds. What does that mean? Tenten comments. Proxy wars. These exams allow other nations to show off their power. The prelims will weed out the less strong, Naruto thought. Not long ago the others nations were jockeying for power and at the cost of our shinobi. However, these exams substitute those battles by having champions do battle in place of all-out war. These exams were created for that purpose, Hiruzen explains. So we're showing pride for our nations by fighting in these exams, Shizuma comments. Exactly. The third and final round of the exams will have many leaders and people of prominence from various nations attending as guests. Many may seek shinobi to work for them. These exams can guide the future of your ninja career. These guests will gauge the strength of individuals but their nations as well. The stronger nation will be inundated with work and the opposite as well as weaker nation requests will decline, Hiruzen states. Then why is it us that have to risk our lives? Kiba says. Hiruzen blows a stream of smoke from his pipe. The country's strength is the village's strength. The village's strength is the shinobi's strength, and the true strength of the shinobi is achieved only in a life or death situation. This exam is a chance for each nation to show their power. Balance is preserved by fighting and dying. In the shinobi world, that is friendship. The final round is fight for the pride of your village and your dreams at stake, he explains. Any test is fine. Just tell me the details of the exam. I can deal with anything you throw at me, Gaara says, and Hiruzen nods. Very well. I will now tell you what the third exam entails. Hiruzen starts, but another Jonin appears. He is a young man with short brown hair, dark color eyes and dark markings under his eyes. He is dressed in the standard Jonin attire and a bandana Hitai 8. Sandame same, allow me, Hayate Gecko proctor of the third exam, to speak first, he says, and Hiruzen waves his hand. It's nice to meet you all. Hayate starts but coughs a bit, as Sandame-sama said. Too many teams pass the second round. To make things more neat, we will have matches to determine the finals. This will no longer be team-based but individual-based. At random your names will be chosen. You will fight and the rules of the second round still apply, but if I tell you stop, you will, he explains. A large screen emerges from the wall and Hayate clear his throat. Now if you feel you cannot go on, you may drop out now, he says. I wish to drop out, Kabuto says, raising his hand. Naruto's eyes narrow as Hayate crosses out Kabuto's name, so that's his game. He smells like snakes and Orochimaru was here, he thought. Meaning he's a spy of some kind, Kurama states. Hayate coughs several times, alright due to his forfeit. Either one match will a three-way battle or one gets a pass to the finals, he says, and several murmur. The board comes to life and cycles through names and stops on Sasuke and Yoroi. He is a young man but his face is concealed by a mask around his mouth, sunglasses that obscure his eyes and a bandana Hitai-8. He wears a high collar, sleeveless, purple shirt with a short sleeve, white one underneath, a simple obi around his waist, purple pants, blue sandals and purple fingerless gloves. The rest of you can observe from the balcony with your sensei, Hayate says, and everyone migrates to the balcony, leaving the pair and Hayate. Hashtag Sasuke vs Yoroi Cannon hash. Sasuke falls on his rear and clutches his shoulder as Yoroi lays motionless. I will make this power mine, he thought, as Hayate declares him the winner. Kakashi immediately shunshuns down. Let's get that sealed up, he says, and both vanish into leaf shunshin. The board cycles again and it falls on Sakura and Ino, causing the Pinka to smirk as they made their way down. Ino has blank look on her face but glances to Hinata and Naruto. Sakura turns her attention to Ino as Hayate declares a beginning to the match. You should give up, Ino pig. I have already won. Sasuke-kun is mine, Sakura says, but Ino remains silent. This infuriates Sakura and she shoots forward with side-to-side motion into a kick, but Ino dodges, countering with right punch. Sakura blocks and pushes forward a left into crouch and kick, but Ino jumps away, pulling three kunai. Sakura back jumps with a toss. Ino dodges one and catches the second to strike the third away, before rushing Sakura in a series of punches and kicks. Ino connects with a body blow that halts Sakura and allows her to connect for a punch, but a flash of their past only allows a harsh slap across the face. Yes, you did win. Sasuke is yours, but that's not what this fight is about, Ino says. Sakura clenches her fist and touches her slapped cheek. You'll pay for this, she shouts and rushes Ino, but the blonde weaves out Sakura's reach. Seems the blonde took you advice, Kurama comments, and Naruto shrugs. Ino back jumps with a toss of kunai as Sakura uses the clone jutsu. I can see through your illusions, Ino shouts and weaves several signs. Megan. Hanagasumi, Ino thought. Sakura freezes and gasps as she finds herself on a large flower petal. General. She shouts, but it's too late as the petal explodes. In the real world, Sakura collapses to her knees with a dazed look and falls face down. Winner Ino Yamanaka, Hayate declares. Kurenai sighs and covers her face as Asuma snickers. Point to me, he muses. Half point as Ino used one of my jutsu, Kurenai comments. Asuma shrugs his shoulders with a puff of smoke. Point taken, he says. I'm curious why Ino changed, Kurenai says, and Asuma points his thumb at Naruto. He told her and Sakura some truths. I explained further and it seemed to click for her. Coupled with the fact that the Uchiha is hanging around Haruno, Asuma explains. The medical team takes Sakura to the medical wing as the board cycles through the names, stopping on Haku and Zaku. Haku makes his way down to the arena floor as Zaku does the same, but his eyes were Naruto. Look like you broke his jaw, Kurama comments. Haku pulls out several senbon as Zaku glares. You should surrender. You're injured. I do not wish to harm you, he says. You, Zaku sputters, despite his broken jaw. Hayate raises his hand to begin the match as Zaku raises his hand to fire his Zenkaha, but Haku breaks left, firing his senbon. Arg! Zaku garbles out, as several senbon hit his arm. Haku quickly flashes several signs to ram, Haijutsu, Makio Hyosho, he thought, creating his ice mirror. Many of the genin gasp and murmur, save Naruto, Tenten and Hinata. I'll end this, Haku says. Zaku jerks as senbon erupt en masse from the mirrors and pierce his body, dropping him to his knees but couldn't stay standing. Haku emerges from the mirror as they come down with a sigh. Winner Haku Yuki Momochi, Hayate declares. Hashtag Masumi vs Kankuro Cannon, Shikamaru vs Kin Cannon hash. The next match is Tamari no Sabaku vs Tenten Higurashi, Hayate declares. Tamari floats down using her fan and Tenten makes her way down. This is a bad matchup for you, Panda. Tamari is a futon user and looks very skilled, Naruto thought. Hayate begins the match and Tenten back jumps, causing Tamari to smirk. You simply want to observe. Seems you're skilled enough, Tamari remarks. Tenten leaps and fires a barrage of shuriken but Tamari blocks with a flare of her futon chakra. I thought I would have some fun with you but you are below my expectation, Tamari says. Tenten glares at Tamari and sprints around into a leap as she grabs two scrolls. So Shoryu, she shouts and a large puff smoke erupts. Tenten begins a furious barrage of weapons but Tamari opens her fan to reveal two moons, before slapping away all the weapons away. One more moon and you're finished, Tamari shouts. Tenten unfurls ninja wire from seals on her fingers to grasps all the weapon into full spin but Tamari counters with her fan now at 3 moons. Tenten lands with a slide but struggles to her feet and smears blood on her right forearm. A kusarigama appears from a puff of smoke and Tenten flings the blade towards Tamari and she blocks but not the steel ball, striking her shoulder. You won't be able to swing your fan with ease now, Tenten remarks and sends the blade once again but Tamari dodges. Don't underestimate me. You've seen 3 moons. Now it ends, Tamari says, preparing her fan. However, Tenten quickly flashes signs to Dragon. I hope this works, she thought and slams her hands on the floor. Raiden, Jaibashi, Tenten shouts, creating a surge of lightning towards the blonde but Tamari swings her fan. Ninpo, Kamedachi, Tamari thought, swinging a swirling vortex. Tenten cries out as she's lifted from the ground but tosses her chain towards Tamari. Reach, she thought but Tamari adds more wind, knocking it off course. The vortex cuts Tenten in numerous spots and Tamari smirks folding her fan. Hey, the match is over, she says, waiting for Tenten to crash on it. However, Naruto appears on the fan and catches Tenten in his arms, much to interest of those attendants. Hey, quite sad. Konoha's kunoichi are a joke, Tamari says but gasps, seeing the look on Naruto's face. The blonde drops to the floor as Hayate calls the match as Tamari watches him head to Mednin. It was like Gaara, Tamari thought, walking back up to her brothers. Lee quickly drops down to check on Tenten as Naruto reaches the medical teams and some proctors remove the stray weapons. Why would Naruto save her? Ino asks. Who knows? Tenten did react to those photos of Naruto that Proctor had. Maybe they are together, Kiba says and their sensei Sai. Shikamaru glances to the blonde as he makes his way back up. Or maybe both, he thought. Naruto-kun, Lee says and Naruto eye smiles. It's fine Lee, Naruto says, making his way to his team. Seem you were correct. Panda Girl is a long-range fighter. Which is useless if you can't reach your opponent. The Sand Girl's futon is impressive as well. She could compete with you, Kurama comments. She relies on her fan. We'd need to see how she fights without it, Zetsue chimes in. We may get to put it to the test in the finals, Naruto thought. He makes it back to Hinata and leans on the wall with his arms folded. I hope Tenten-san will be okay, she says. She will. Tenten is a tough girl, Naruto muses. A few minutes pass and the board cycles again as Kakashi returns without Sasuke. Where's Sasuke? Hinata asks but as her name comes up with Kiba. Yahoo! It's our turn, Kiba shouts and Akamaru barks. Naruto places a hand on her shoulder. Show Neji your medal, he says and Hinata nods. The pair make their way down. Don't worry Hinata. I won't hurt you too bad, Kiba says, placing Akamaru down. Hajime, Hayate shouts. Hinata activates her Byakugan and slips into her Juken stance as Kiba lowers himself. Beast mimicry. All fours jutsu, he shouts, becoming more feral. Kiba rockets forward with a barrage of swipes but Hinata dodges with flowing movements and strikes Kiba in the stomach with a palm strike. Kiba backpedals with a rub of his stomach. She dodges me with minimal effort. Hinata's gotten stronger, he thought, shooting ahead. On the balcony, Neji watches with disgust on his face as Hinata weaves in and out of Kiba's strikes. That is not the proper Juken. Why do you continue to defy fate? I thought we would fight and I would lay you low at my feet, but the possibility still remains, Neji thought. Let's go, Akamaru, Kiba shouts, tossing him a pill. Akamaru turns red and changes into a copy of Kiba. Both rush her from each side, but Hinata counters with several precise strikes and blocks with a knee. What? She used her legs. I thought the Juken wasn't like that, Ino shouts. Kiba and Akamaru backpedal as Hinata stood with her knee raised and her Juken ready. Here I come, Kiba-kun, Hinata says and sprints forward. Kiba and Akamaru ready themselves, but Kiba gasps and dodges a water whip. She can do that too, he thought, as they break right and left. Hinata turns on her heel and closes the gap with Akamaru, striking him softly and halting his transformation. Akamaru. All right, Hinata, take this. Gatsuga, Kiba shouts, spinning like a tornado. Kaden, Hinata thought, spinning like a top and tanking Kiba's attack. He lands with a skid as Hinata stops spinning, but she sprints forward and strikes Kiba in the arms and chest. Acha. Looks like I lose this. Proctor, I forfeit, Kiba declares. Don't worry, Kiba-kun, your tenketsu will open in a few hours, Hinata says, offering her hand. Kiba gets to his feet and shakes her hand. You've gotten stronger, he says, and glancing to Naruto, I can see why, he thought. Hashtag Neji vs Choji. Neji wins, obviously, hash. The next match is Bunten Kurosuke vs Naruto Uzumaki, Hayate declares. Lee falls to his knees with River of Tears, but Guy touches his shoulder. Don't worry, Lee. Your time will come and everyone will see the power of your youth, he says. Yashai will shine like the sun, Guy-sensei, Lee shouts and turns to Naruto. So will you show your brightness in your match. Naruto-kun, he adds. Naruto turns his head to Lee. Huh. You say something, Lee, he says, and Lee balks. Kakashi places a hand on Naruto's shoulder with a thumbs up as Guy and Lee rant about hip rivals. Be on guard. She fought in the Civil War and is related to a former member of the Seven Swordsmen of Mist, Kakashi states, and Naruto nods, before making his way down. Hiruzen watches Naruto come down and lowers his hat. Naruto-kun. How much will you show? He thought. Bunten stood with a confident look on her face and a katana secured to her waist and her jinbauri draped on her shoulders. Naruto has Zetsue secured to his lower back and his eyes closed, but internally he was excited to test more of his sword skill. Hajime, Hayate shouts, and Naruto opens his eyes. Bunten quickly drives her sword into the floor. Reiso, Ikazuki no Utage, she shouts, as lightning erupts towards Naruto. He quickly draws Zetsue and uses his shukuchi to break right to avoid the lightning and closes the gap with Bunten, but she switches with a Mizu Bunshin. Looks like I'll get to have some fun with you, tree hugger, Bunten says. Shizuma cups his chin in thought. He's quite skilled. That was the reduced earth technique. There may be some truth to him fighting Zabuza-sama, he thought. Naruto-kun has improved, I feel, Haku says, and Zabuza scoffs. He better, I want my rematch, Zabuza comments. Raiden, Raikyu, Bunten shouts, firing several orbs, but Naruto dodges and even cuts some. Naruto emerges from the small dust cloud with a Gatatsu thrust, but only hits Bunten's jinbauri. You're mine, Bunten shouts, aiming for Naruto's head and connects, but Naruto pops into a puff smoke. Bunten gasps and gets her sword up as Naruto connects with an overhead strike, sending a jolt through her body and she nearly buckles. It felt like a two-hand strike, Bunten says. Naruto pushes on Zetsue and causes Bunten to slide, but he switches to a flurry of strikes. Bunten parries as best as she can, but Naruto is relentless. Reigeki no Yoroi, she shouts, erupting with lightning, and halts Naruto to slash him across the chest. How do you like that? Bunten shouts, as Hinata and Haku gasp. Are you happy? Naruto says, speaking for the first time, and Bunten furrows her brow. Naruto rips open his shirt and shows unharmed body. Are you happy you ripped my shirt? He says, and Bunten's eyes widen. Impossible. I know I cut flesh. Bunten thought, but her breath hitches, as Naruto is in front of her with his sword arcing towards her. Bunten quickly gets her sword up, but it shatters from Naruto's swing, shocking many in attendance. Bunten staggers back with a lock of shock, but Naruto knocks her out with a chop to the back of her neck. Winner Naruto Uzumaki, Hayate announces. Yes, he will prove my existence, Gaara thought. It seems he will be pleasing prey, Shizuma. However, many of the Konoha shinobi that knew Naruto were shocked. Hinata was Naruto this strong, Ino states. Mendokusei. I guess Naruto proved you wrong, Ino, Shikamaru states. Medical takes Bunten and the board cycles through once again as it stops on Gaara and Lee. Yash, my youth can burn brightly, Lee roars and Gaara simply sand shunshuns to the floor. Hashtag Lee vs Gaara Cannon, sorry, hash. By virtue of the board, Dosu Kinyuda will pass to the finals and the final match will be Shizuma Hoshigaki vs Shino Aburame, Hayate says, and Dosu smirks. Naruto leans on the railing as Shizuma makes his way down, getting a look at his sword. The sword itself resembles a large katana, within a sleek dark blue sheath and Kiri's symbol stamped on it. The guard is shaped like a shark tooth with the hilt being blue and white. Shino makes his down and the two stand face to face. You don't seem like good prey, Shizuma says. Hajime, Hayate states. Shino raises his arms as Kikaichu emerges. Shizuma draws his sword, revealing shark scales on the back of the blade, but the blade itself being black. You are not proper prey. No point in dragging this out, Shizuma says and shoots forward. Shino readies his swarm, but his eyes widen as Shizuma was behind him. Suddenly his chest opens up with a spray of blood. Shino collapses to one knee as his swarm works to close his wound. Blood is in the water and my Samakiba is hungry, Shizuma says, flicking the blood off and raises his sword but halts, sensing ki directed at him. Shino collapses as Hayate rushes to him. Winner Shizuma Hoshigaki, he declares, before calling for the medics. The Konoha rookies were concerned for Shino, but Kurenai was the most upset, shooting a look to Zabuza. Che. Don't blame me for his actions. The kid fought in the Civil War. His bloodlust is not normal, Zabuza says. About 20 minutes pass and Hayate calls all the winners to the arena floor except Sasuke. Now that the preliminaries have concluded, you will now choose lots, Hayate explains. Each Genin and Kakashi for Sasuke choose their numbers but soon reveal them. The number you matched with is your opponent for the third round of the exams, Hayate explains and coughs several times. The matches will be Neji Hyuga vs Hinata Hyuga. Tamari no Sabaku vs Shikamaru Nara. Kankuro no Sabaku vs Dosu Kinyuda. Ino Yamanaka vs Hakumamochi. Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara no Sabaku, and lastly Naruto Uzumaki vs Shizuma Hoshigaki, Hayate adds. Hiruzen clears his throat to get their attention. The finals will take place 1 month from now. All ninja from foreign lands will be allowed to use specific training grounds, but you will be watched by Anbu for security reasons. I wish you all luck, he says and vanishes via leaf shunshin. Hinata glances to Neji and he has a dark look on his face but eeps as Naruto places hand her shoulder. Looks like you get your wish and on a grand stage, Naruto says and Hinata slowly nods. Neji glares at the pair. In 1 month. I will show you that fate is my side, he thought, leaving with his team. Shizuma approaches Naruto with a smirk on his face. I look forward to see if you are worth prey, he says but leans closer. Your KI was quite precise. Impressive, Shizuma adds, turning on his heels and following his team. Kakashi approaches with an ice smile on his face. Congratulations on passing to the third round, he says. Will you be helping us train for the month, Kakashi-sensei? Hinata asks but Kakashi sighs. Unfortunately no. I will training Sasuke for his match with Gaara. However, I have set up teachers for you. Hinata will be training with Shizune and for you Naruto. Your teacher will meet you in 2 days at the hot springs and be very respectful with him, Kakashi says and both nod. Naruto plops on the sofa with a drawn-out sigh. A month of waiting, he thought, but Kuroshiro barks, getting his attention, and he pulls her up on the sofa. She whines and micro-bites his fingers. I know, but they should release her later today, Naruto says, and she barks. Naruto took a quick nap with Kuroshiro on his chest, but she fidgets and wakes him up. What? He says, but Kuroshiro whines. All right, Naruto says, letting down, and she runs to her puppy corner to do her business. Naruto sits up and grabs a bag of jerky, but whines catch his ears. You are so spoiled, he says, give her a piece. Naruto and Kuroshiro finish the bag and she goes to sleep almost immediately. Good, now I can go see Anko and Tenten, he thought, going to get dressed. He dresses himself in shorts and a high-collar shirt with running shoes, before leaving a bone for his pupper. Naruto leaves the apartment and makes his way towards the hospital, but could feel someone on the edge of his senses. They're back on you again, Zetsue says. Must have had eyes in the second round, Kurama comments. Naruto pockets his hands and takes to the roofs. Danzo is fishing again. He dares. He dies, he thought. Foo. I look forward to it, Kurama says. Naruto arrives at the hospital and makes to Tenten's room, finding sitting on the edge of her bed. Her brown hair was down, wearing some casual clothes, but he could see the bandages on her body. Naruto, Tenten says, rubbing her left arm. Naruto closes the gap with a sigh. How are you feeling? He says. I'm all right. Just my wounded pride, Tenten says. Naruto sighs as Tenten rests her head on his chest. She was a bad opponent for you, but you did the best you could, he says. Tenten looks up with a few tears in her eyes, still. I heard what she said, she whispers, but Naruto strokes her cheek. So what? Even if she thinks our kunoichi are weak. Then pick yourself up and grow stronger. Did I become strong in old life in one day or one battle? No, I trained my ass off, Naruto says. Still, Tenten whispers, and Naruto moves her chin to look him in the eyes. Tenten, you can grow stronger. Just find your niche and excel, Naruto says. Tenten sighs and pulls back from Naruto. Thanks. Will you help me train when we're not on missions? She says. Sure, Naruto says, giving her a soft kiss. Tenten pulls back with a blush as Naruto smiles. Are you ready to be discharged? He asks, and she nods. Let's go pick up Anko, Naruto says, and Tenten nods, grabbing her things. The pair make their way to Anko's room, but found Kurenai and Hana already there. About time, Naru-kun. And Chan wants to leave. Hey Panda, Anko comments, and Hana snorts. Naruto sighs and ruffles his hair. Well, I'm here now. How are you feeling? I was worried, he says. I'm feeling better. So how did you do in the second round? Anko says, trying to play off they have seen each before today. I got my ass handed to me by a bitch from Suna, Tenten says, and Naruto sighs. We passed after a day and I faced a kunoichi from Kiri named Bunten Kurosuke, and I'm facing her teammate Shizuma Hoshigaki in the finals, Naruto says, and sees the dark look in Kurenai's eyes. How is Shino? Kurenai-sensei? Naruto asks. He woke up about an hour ago and he's stable. Tsunade-sama was able to heal his wound, but he'll be in the hospital a few more days, Kurenai replies. Don't worry, Nine. You too, Panda. Naru-kun will pay them in back in spades, Anko comments. We're just about to discharge her. When you came, Tsunade says, walking in, and Anko smiles. Did you see Karen? Naruto asks, and Tsunade nods, giving Anko her papers to sign. I did. I spoke to Sensei and I agreed to take Karen into the Senju clan until you become clan head. We might get some flack from Kusa, but frankly I could care less. Karen told me how they treated her and her mother, Tsunade replies. How did they treat her? Hana asks. Tsunade sighs and rubs her eyes. Karen and her mother were born with special chakra. By biting them, they can heal injuries. You can imagine what would happen, she says, and Hana's eyes darken. So they just used her mom and her as walking healers, Hana says, and Tsunade nods. Yes. Her mother was used until she died and Karen was on that road as well, Tsunade says, taking Anko's papers. Anyway, she's at the Senju compound if you want to see her, Tsunade says and excuses herself. Naruto-kun, who will be training you for the finals, Kurenai asks. Kakashi-sensei got me someone. I'll meet them tomorrow. Did Hinata come see you? Naruto says and Kurenai nods. She did. I don't know what I can teach her, but she did mention splitting time with Shizune, Kurenai says. Anko finishes putting on her boots and slips on her coat. Stop worrying about that. I want some dango, she chirps and all of them laugh. The group leaves the hospital but Kurenai and Hana break off, leaving the trio to walk home. I'll see you later. Dad's probably worried, Tenten says and kisses Naruto on the cheek, before leaving. Cheeky panda, Anko says, puffing her cheek. Anyway, how are you feeling? Naruto asks. Anko opens and closes her left hand. My control is out of whack and Tsunade-sama said that my reserves will grow, she says. We'll need to work on your Ryutsu too. I placed a limiter seal on you to block it for now, Naruto says and Anko nods, as they arrive at the dango shop. Hey, I'll be right back, Naruto says and Anko nods, ordering several helpings of dango. Naruto quickly takes to the roofs and finds his stalker waiting in one of the training grounds, but it was Sai. Why are you following me? Naruto says and Sai only smiles. Music. Danzo theme. Naruto asked. Forgive him. I wished to meet you and I sent him to observe you both times, a voice says and Naruto glances back to see Danzo. He dared, Kurama states. Naruto fully turns to the older man. Who are you, sir? He asks. My name is Danzo Shimura. A member of the advisory council for the Hokage, Danzo states. Why does a member of the advisory council wish to observe me? A lowly genin, Naruto says, glancing to Sai but neither notice the flash in Naruto's eyes. I already know you are aware of your burden, boy. I have come here to offer you a place in my nei to bring about your true potential, Danzo says, trying to influence Naruto. Nei? Naruto questions. Danzo moves closer to Naruto. Nei works in the shadows and protects the great tree, he explains. Surely you only wish me to join because I am a Jinchuriki. Danzo-san, Naruto says, his eyes half open. Indeed, this boy is nothing like his profile, Danzo says and open his visible eye. Surely you know. You will never receive a fair shake as a Jinchuriki and never reach your true potential in the normal ninja corp, he says. I also know you are a futon user. A rarity in Fire Country. I too am a futon user and can teach you much, Danzo adds. Naruto pockets his hand and slowly walks past Danzo. I see. Well, I may consider it Danzo-sama, he says, walking away. Will he join Danzo-sama? Sai says, once Naruto was gone. Danzo lowers his head to hide the smirk on his face. Yes, the Jinchuriki is now mine to control, he says, both completely unaware that they have sealed their fates. Music ends. Hashtag next day hash. Naruto sighs as he makes his way towards the hot springs, his encounter with Danzo still weighing on his mind. You know, I look forward to what you do to him, Kurama comments and Naruto chuckles. I'll need to find his base first. Once I do, Danzo and all his forces are going to learn it's never wise to pick a fight with a Kenpachi, Naruto thought. So Naru-kun, who did Scarecrow get to train you? Anko comments, dango stick in her mouth. Naruto shrugs his shoulder but stops as he hears giggling, but not normal giggling. What is that? He thought. Well, I'm going soak. Catch you later, Panda should be waiting for me, Anko says, kissing his cheek and skipping off. Naruto reaches the bridge to the bathhouses and the giggling gets louder. What the hell is that? He thought, but his senses pick up something. He looks towards the largest tree and his eyes narrow, before walking over and kicking the tree. A figure falls out but launches away to land on the bridge as Naruto stares. Who are you, old man? He shouts. He managed to sense me, Jiraiya thought and whips his hair. I am glad you asked. I am Mountain Toad Sage of Mount Myoboku. Known through the east, west, south and north. Jiraiya the Gallant, he declares, doing a kabuki dance. Ah, so why were you in the tree? Naruto says, and Jiraiya nearly falls. I was doing research for my latest novel, Jiraiya says, and pulls out his ICHA book. Naruto's eyes widen and quickly narrow. So you're the smut peddler. So research is peeking on women, he shouts. It's not smut. Jiraiya fires back but freezes, as Naruto's brow creases and a scowl forms. You're a pervert and you're peeking on girls. Meaning you were gonna peek on Anko and Tenten, Naruto says, as this red aura surrounds him. Jiraiya's eyes widen in horror as Naruto stands before him. Kami, it's Kushina all over again, he thought. Ah, a pervert. Where? Ah, several voices shout. Jiraiya jerks and rushes towards Naruto to cover his mouth. I'm not just a pervert. I'm your sensei for the month, he says. Oh really, Ero Sennin? Naruto says, his voice muffled, and Jiraiya shakes his head. Yes. Now follow me, Jiraiya says, and shunshins them away, as numerous women appear with weapons. The pair reappear in the forest near a large stream, and Naruto slaps Jiraiya's hand from his mouth. So you're the sensei. Kakashi sensei lined up for me, Naruto says, and Jiraiya puffs up his chest. A pervert, he adds, and Jiraiya deflates. I'll have you know, Gaki. I trained the Yondaime Hokage, Jiraiya shouts. So you taught Dad, Naruto says, and Jiraiya puffs up again. That right, Gaki. I taught your father, Jiraiya says, but freezes and gawks at Naruto. The blonde shrugs his shoulder as Jiraiya shakes his fingers. Why, you know, he shouts, and Naruto nods. Jiraiya quickly clears his throat and remembers his sensei told him that, oh. Okay, so first, I need to see your seal. Sensei told me that it loosened in Nami, he says. Naruto sighs and takes off his kung fu shirt and undershirt, then channels his chakra to make the seal appear. Jiraiya squats down to inspect the seal. The seal is still in perfect shape, but it indeed loosened, he thought, rising to his feet. From what Kakashi has told me, you quite skilled and have 2 chakra natures. Even pretty good in kenjutsu. So we'll mainly work on fine-tuning, and I'll teach 2 skills. Summoning and the Yondaime's signature, the Rasengan, Jiraiya explains. What about Fuinjutsu? I learned most of what's in the Shinobi library, Naruto says, and Jiraiya's breath hitches. Why, you did? Good, we can work on that too, Jiraiya says, and bites his thumb, running the blood across his right hand and doing several signs, but ends in sheep. Kuchio's no jutsu, Jiraiya shouts and slams his hand on the ground, creating a large puff of smoke, and a large toad appear with a scroll. Sign your name in blood and repeat the hand seals you saw, Jiraiya explains. Naruto unfurls the scroll and sees several names, including his father, biting his thumb, and quickly signs the contract. Naruto slowly does the signs and slams his hand. Kuchio's no jutsu, he thought, and a puff of smoke erupts. It dissipates to reveal a small orange toad with purple markings around his eyes, mouth and stomach, with a dark blue vest. What's up? I'm Gamakichi, the toad says. Naruto picks up Gamakichi. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, he says. Impressive on your first try, but I want to use more chakra this time, Jiraiya says. Naruto lets Gamakichi down and he hops onto Jiraiya's shoulder. Naruto draws on Kurama's chakra and bites his thumb again. Kuchio's no jutsu, he thought, and a huge amount smoke erupts. Jiraiya's eyes widen as Naruto was standing atop a giant magenta-colored toad with black markings on his face, arms, and legs, with horn-like protrusions on his head. He wears a black kimono with a white sash and mesh armor underneath, carrying a Sakazuki-like shield wrapped around his back and his Sasumata in his hand. He summoned Gameiken on his second try. Minato, your son will shatter every perception. Could he be? Jiraiya thought. Jiraiya-sama, did you summon me? I'm not very graceful, but I can assist you, Gameiken says. Sorry Gameiken, but it's the gaki on your head that summoned you, Jiraiya shouts, adding chakra to his voice. Naruto moves down to give Gamaken a better look at him. Arrow Sennin is correct. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, he says. I see. Welcome to the Toad Clan. Summon me if needed for battle, but I'm not very graceful, Gamaken says and lets Naruto down, before dispelling. That's enough for today. I'll start teaching you the Rasengan tomorrow. I need some supplies, Jiraiya says and Naruto slowly nods, as Gamakichi jumps down. See ya Naruto, Gamakichi says and dispels. Jiraiya reaches in his pouch and hands Naruto a book. You can start on this as well, he says and vanishes, via leaf shunshin. Advanced Fuinjutsu, Naruto says and thumbs the book quickly but creates numerous clones. Search the village and find Danzo's base, Naruto says and the clones vanish. This is more advanced than what is in the library, Naruto thought, leaping through the trees. Fuinjutsu is a lost art. Your panda uses it to use her weapons but most shinobi don't use it. It's about flashy jutsu. However your parents used it. That's why it's easy for you. You should convince that old man to allow you to go to Uzushio. The Uzumaki birthplace, Kurama states, as Naruto picks up the speed into Shunpo. He arrives back at his apartment and finds Anko inside. So did you meet your temporary sensei? She asks. Yeah I did and it's Jiraiya of the Sannin but he's a shameless pervert, Naruto says and Anko giggles. But he let me sign the Toad contract and taught me to summon. He even plans to teach me the Rasengan invented by Dad, Naruto says and Anko gasps. That will really make the villagers flip out, Anko says and Naruto nods, pulling her wakizashi from the seal on his hand. Anko slowly takes the sword and it feels right in her hands. I'll have to get Yugaone to help me with Kenjutsu, she says. We should also work on using your Ryutsu too. It's no different than chakra but it can kill if you're not careful, Naruto says. For real, Anko says and Naruto slowly nods. Yeah come on. I'll show you, Naruto says and Anko nods. We'll be back Kuroshiro, Anko shouts and Kuroshiro barks. The pair quickly make their way to the forest of death and he puts up his barrier. Naruto opens his kung fu shirt, pulls down his undershirt and channels his Ryutsu, causing an Old English 6 appear on his left pec. This seal acts as an limiter known as Gente Rain. I managed to recreate it with Fuinjutsu. This suppresses my Ryutsu and I put the same on you until we could be in a controlled environment, Naruto explains. Okay first I want you to picture yourself on an ocean. Then focus on your center to create ripples. Stronger the ripple and more power you can draw, Naruto explains and puts 2 fingers on her stomach, releasing her seal. Anko closes her eyes and pictures the ocean but gasps seeing the girl from before. We meet again, she says. Yeah, so try your name again, Anko says and the girl giggles. My name is $% and asterisk, she says and again Anko furrows her brow. No go again but it will come soon. Now that we together again. We will become more in tune and my name with come, she adds. Outside Naruto notices Anko's Ryutsu starting to pulse with a purplish color as Anko opens her now glowing eyes. How do you feel? Naruto asks. Anko holds up hands and feels power rippling through her body, weird. It's like I'm overflowing with energy, she says. That why I unsealed it inside my Ruo Shoheki. Unrestrained Ryutsu can harm living things around the user, Naruto says, pointing to his own seal. This seal limits nearly 80% of my Ryutsu at a time. If I used my full Ryutsu, I could probably kill everyone in Konoha, Naruto add and Anko's eyes widen. For real, Anko says and Naruto places his hand on the seal, causing it to fade some. Suddenly a thunderous explosion of power erupts as a purplish-black aura forms around him, causing Anko to fall on her rear with wide eyes. Naruto restrains himself and the 6 comes back fully, see what I mean? Unlike most I can draw out my Ryutsu faster than anyone, he says, reaching out his hand. Anko takes his hand and shakingly gets to her feet. I see. So how do I stack up in terms of you? She asks. An unseated officer, but your Ryutsu will continue grow as time passes and you'll learn your Zanpakuto's name. When I made you a Soul Reaper, I placed the same seal on you, Naruto says. Anko lifts her shirt and sees a 6 surrounding her belly button but only an outline. How did you make this? She asks. Fuinjutsu, but instead of chakra. I used my Ryutsu and it worked, Naruto says, and place his fingers on her seal and locking it up. For now, focus on your getting your control back for your chakra and learning to use your sword, Naruto says. Anko pulls down her shirt. So what does the 6 mean? She says, as Naruto drops his barrier and they head home. It represents the mercenary group I was a part of. I was Roku, or the Rokukage, or 6 shadows, Naruto explains. So my 6 signifies, Anko says, and Naruto smirks. That you're very important to me, Naruto says, and Anko giggles. Hash hash. Alright Naruto. This is the Rasengan, Jiraiya says and holds out his left hand. A spiraling orb of chakra forms in Jiraiya's hand. It took the Yondaime 3 years to perfect this jutsu, he says, before slamming into a tree and ripping out a chunk out of it. Naruto whistles but looks down at the bag of water balloons. So what's with the balloons? He asks. That is the first step. Rotation. You have spinning the water inside, Jiraiya explains. Naruto picks up a balloon as Jiraiya turns on his heels. I'll check back in a week, he states. Aren't you gonna give tips? Naruto says. Jiraiya glances back with a smirk. You're a big boy. I won't hold your hand, he says, vanishing into smoke. Naruto sighs and takes a seat with his legs crossed as Zetsue manifests. Some sensei, Zetsue comments, and Naruto shakes his head with a sigh. This is better. I can do things my way, Naruto says, putting the balloon his lap. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto thought and creates 20 clones. Each of you take a balloon and start the rotation, he says, and all of them nod. Naruto unseals the book called The Tale of the Gutsy Ninja and starts to read through it. How are things on the Danzo and Kabuto fronts? Kurama asks. Naruto turns a page with a sigh. They found the base, but I want to know all exits and prepare accordingly. As for Kabuto, he hasn't slipped up yet, but he will sooner or later, he thought. Danzo will have contingencies. He pegs me as a paranoid bastard, Kurama, and Naruto chuckles. That will work out better. Because he's a paranoid bastard. I'll get my hands on evidence on his cohorts. He has pawns on the council. It would explain how my status got out. He wanted me isolated and driven towards him by choice, Naruto thought. His reach is like a root choking the tree. If he has pawns on the council and he is actually causing detrimental damage, Zetsue states, and both nod. The academy is a breeding ground for weakness. Civilians are thrown in, but the gap between them and clan children is obvious to some. They glorify shinobi as heroes saving princesses, and kunoichi should be demure and damsels. He uses that as means to tarnish Gigi and take over, Naruto thought. About hour passes and Naruto dispelled half his clones, before picking up a balloon and trying the rotation. There must be more to this. Perhaps not just rotation but multiple rotations, Naruto thought, and made 10 more clones, dispelling the other original 5. This book is interesting but slightly flawed. Peace is good, but through understanding is not often the case. Some people will never understand, Naruto thought, continuing his book and his clones working. Hashtag 1 week later hash. Naruto adjusts his mask and secures his gloves as he leaps through the woods. This will be first the step, he thought, creating numerous clones. Create Ruo Shoheki and secure the escape's routes. Kill anyone and deposit their bodies inside the Garganta. Naruto signs and the clones scatter. Naruto arrives at the entrance of Danzo's secret base. A week of planning and we finally put an end to him, Kurama comments. Naruto rolls his neck and draws Zetsue from her sheath, before slashing open the entrance. Deep within the base, Danzo makes his way on a bridge but stops at the intersection with his top soldiers Fu and Torun flanking him. Fu is a young man with auburn hair and amber eyes. He wears a red short kimono under a black jacket with red straps, a black sash, a pair of black gloves, dark color pants, and regular shinobi sandals. Torun is a member of the Aburame clan and wears a high collar, all black outfit with a red sash around his waist and an apron over his pants, along with a short black jacket with red straps over the shoulders. Danzo-sama, Sai says, appearing and kneeling. Suddenly there were rumbles and small explosions. An intruder, Sai says. Danzo grips his cane with a narrow of his eye. Is this you, Hiruzen? He thought. Secure the entrance and exit routes. I want this rat found and brought before me, Danzo says, and Sai vanishes. Should we prepare an exit for you, Danzo-sama? Fu says. Music. Fairy Tale Absolute Zero Silver Ost. Extended. Don't bother. All the exits have been sealed off, a voice says. Fu and Torun quickly get in front of Danzo as Naruto emerges from the shadows. You're all going to die down here, he says, Zetsue dripping with blood. Who are you? Danzo says, dropping his cane. Naruto tilts his head but slowly shakes it. I told Sai. You would know how this ends, and we met just a week ago, he says, and rips off his mask. The Jinchuriki, Danzo says. Naruto slips the mask in his pocket. Yes, the Jinchuriki. I will admit it was clever to tip your hand and confront me in public, but you dared one time too many, he says. Danzo pulls his hidden arm out of his robe with 3 large locks surrounding it. You still came to me, boy. Now kneel, he states, using his hidden eye. Shadows cover Naruto's face, but he slowly reaches for his face and starting laughing. Your arrogance is amazingly astounding, Naruto says, his eyes starting to glow and his smile wide. The air around them starts to become heavy. You are a cancer on this village and this world. I didn't come here to kneel before you. I came here to wipe you from this world, Naruto says. It is you. Who is arrogant boy? You trespass in my territory and dare to try and assassinate me. Hiruzen will not save you. The council will have your head and will call for him to turn you over to me, Danzo says, removing one lock. Torun slowly removes his gloves as his hands turn purple. Shall we secure him, Danzo-sama? He says. Do it. I will release the locks, Danzo says. Naruto sighs and drives Zetsue into the wood as Torun and Fu launch towards, but Naruto simply points his left hand like a gun. Foolish, Naruto thought, and charges a purple Sero. Both men gasp, but it was too late as the Sero erases them both and forcing Danzo to dodge right as it carves through the base. Now do you see the futility of your ways? As we speak, my clones are killing off your forces. By dawn Ne will be no more. Konoha and the world will be much safer, Naruto says. The remaining locks fall as do the bandages to reveal 10 Sharingan eyes on Danzo's fake arm with the indentation of a face on the shoulder. You've been keeping secrets even from Hiruzen. Is this your true nature or has the Kyuubi taken over? Danzo says. Naruto reaches for Zetsue but stops and instead flares his Ryutsu, causing Danzo to clutch his chest. However, the Warhawk gasps as 4 of his Sharingan eyes close. Impossible. It took 4 Izanagi uses. What was that? He thought. Seems those eyes saved you from death. I sensed your death but it quickly returned, Naruto says. Danzo shoots towards Naruto but the blonde dodges and lands behind Danzo. Seeing as you're going, die, Danzo. I'll be cliché and tell you my plans, he says. Danzo takes a deep breath with several signs to stop at dog, futon, shinkaha, he thought, spewing several wind orbs. Denku, Naruto says, and a clear wall forms, blocking the wind blasts. Bakudo number 61 Raikujokuro, Naruto adds, and Danzo jerks, as 6 rods of light pierce his body. Naruto produces a hidden knife and tosses it into Danzo's hidden eye. What you are experiencing is a binding technique, Naruto says. Curse you, boy, Danzo says, trying to use Izanagi, and it succeeds but the Bakudo remains. Naruto smirks and tosses another knife up and down in his hand. It didn't just pierce your body but your soul as well. You will not escape unless I break it, he says, and flares his Ryutsu once again. Danzo grits his teeth as his heart seizes and 3 more eyes close. You should have been mine from birth, he hisses out. Yes. Your grand scheme. Having the most powerful Jinchuriki at your beck and call. Another reason to see you erased from this world, Naruto says, winging Danzo on the cheek. Naruto halts in his tracks and his clones inside the base dispel. I broke my record, he muses and rubs his head. Well, let's put an end this farce. Oh, I did say I would tell you my plan, Naruto says. Danzo struggles to free himself from the Raikujokuro. You won't get away with this, boy. I hold great influence in this village, he says. Naruto blinks in front of Danzo and grabs the older man by the throat. No doubt you do. However, as we speak, Sai is delivering all your secrets hidden in this place to the old man. He starts and Danzo's eye widens. Naruto widens his left eye as a starred pinwheel forms. This how I corrupted your pet Sai and prevented you from taking control. Once he delivers those files, he'll commit immolation seppuku far outside the village, he says and relaxes his eye. Do know what you have done. This files should never have seen the light of day, Danzo shouts and Naruto chuckles, turning on his heels. Indeed, all your dirty dealings. Something the old man cannot ignore. He suspects your little army isn't gone and will raid this place. He'll find nothing, of course, and will label you a traitor to Konoha and will want your head. Too bad you'll be dead already. Your legacy forever tarnished, Naruto states. Danzo grits his teeth in anger as Naruto turns towards him with a demonic smirk, accented by his Chelsea scar. You won't get away with this. Powerful forces are moving towards you, Danzo says. Naruto spreads his arms apart with another wide grin. Then let them come. I am a Kenpachi. We do not shirk battle, he says and calls Zetsue to his hand. I hope they are worth to see my Zetsue's true face, Naruto adds, blinking forward and driving her through Danzo's throat. Danzo gurgles as Naruto twists the blade in his throat, but the blonde flares his power once more, closing all but Danzo's hidden eye. Impossible. How could this boy be so powerful? Danzo thought, as Naruto yanks Zetsue from his throat. Naruto releases the Raikujokuro and Danzo falls to the ground clutching his bleeding throat. I only have Shisui's eye remaining. I'll need to try Koto Amatsukami, he thought, ripping the bandage free, but Naruto counter by slashing Danzo's last Sharingan eye. Danzo releases a gurgled scream as he collapses to one knee. I won't die alone, boy. If you will not be my weapon, then die, he shouts, his voice gargled and raspy. Danzo rips open his top as several seals form on his chest. How could I be forced to this by a child, he thought. Ura Shisho Fuin, Danzo shouts. A black-like substance erupts from Danzo, but his eye widens as Naruto vanishes and stand far above him. Take these words into your death. Konoha will remain strong. I will become the foundation of its strength and something that will never be able to ignored, Naruto shouts. A large orb forms around Danzo and sucks everything in his vicinity into it, dropping Danzo's lifeless body to a lower bridge. Naruto drops down next to Danzo's body. I can sense a lingering chakra of Hashirama Senju, Kurama comments. The Shadaime. Then his body definitely needs to disappear, Naruto thought and snaps his fingers. The area next to them rips open to reveal the turbulent void, as Naruto picks up Danzo. Reside forever in darkness, Naruto says, tossing Danzo's body inside and the garganta snaps closed. The biggest obstacle in your life is now off the board, but I wonder about these powerful forces, Zetsue says, but Naruto chuckles. No matter. Let them come and see the power of the 11th Kenpachi, Naruto says, vanishing.